There's a popular concept of using your wife as an accountability partner. It's a very popular idea, but let me explain really quickly why that's not a good idea. But that does not mean you exclude her from the process. One of the things we lose as we're fighting an addiction is we lose some of our ability to participate in psychological empathy, which means our ability to see or experience something from another person's perspective. And because we men struggle with visually objectifying women, we can also psychologically objectify them. And one of the mistakes that I and many other men have made is we aren't paying much attention to the heavy weight that's on a woman's shoulders just to be a woman, let alone to help a man be a man. And so it's a full-time job to be a normal woman. It's extra work for a normal woman when she's got to go through her own betrayal trauma recovery. And then if she also gets the assignment of being her husband's accountability partner, then she has even more weight on her shoulders. So we do support the concept of transparency, but I usually recommend it in the form of making your journal, your progress journal, available, and then she can look at it at her convenience when she's in the mood to, or when she's psychologically strong enough to do so. But you create this accountability cycle between you and God. If you're on, I saw that you're talking to the guys on the Relay app. We all come from a background that has enough masculine support systems that's half swat you on the back of the head and the other half give you a high five. So we all know how to do that. We all know how to play that game. This crew is pretty good about being there for each other in uplifting and butt-kicking ways. The most important one is to be your accountability system with God and making sure that you refine that with Him. And then what you'll start to see is that your wife can relax because you're in good hands. Then they can pay more attention to their own healing. We've gotten really familiar with the satanic attacks on our man brains. The number one attack on man brains is temptation. The number one attack on female brains is torment. So it makes us unrelatable to each other. They don't understand temptation. We don't understand torment. And it's hard for them to validate it, and it's hard for us to validate theirs. Now, one of the number one things that I've watched Satan use on a wife's brain is the ace up the sleeve called, but you don't know that he's not doing something bad. Now, here's what we've learned though. I call it the lighthouse technique. A lighthouse does the same thing over and over again to give us the sense of security that we know where the lighthouse is. It just sits there and it just goes beep, beep. That's all it does, nothing important, although it gives the person in the boat tons of sensation of safety and security. When you're a woman who doesn't know where the rocky cliffs are, doesn't know how the man brain works, doesn't know where his brain is at, the simple beep flash of here's where my brain is at, this is why you're safe. For us, it feels as useful as sitting in a lighthouse. It's like, well, I don't see the big deal of just here's where I'm at. Let me build on this. This pattern looks almost identical in the mother-son version as it does for the patriarch helpmate cycle, except the only difference is the man is leading the process in the patriarch helpmate cycle and the woman is leading the process with the mother-son cycle. So here's how Satan does the trick, is he starts by emphasizing how important it is for us as men to prove that we can do things on our own, that we don't need help, that I've got this, I don't need someone to supervise me, I don't need someone to check in with, I don't need someone to watch over me, especially a wife who is now becoming my mom. So it becomes very irritating. So we share less. Then Satan gets on her back and says, you don't know what he's doing, you don't know what he's doing, scare you, torment, until she tries to keep her mouth shut, until she finally goes, what's going on over there? I need you to do this, and I need you to do that, I need you to do this. And now we're going back off woman, etc., etc. And then she's scared some more. And so if you've lived in a world of mother-son dynamic in marriage, it's a horribly painful experience. And Satan says, well, if you're going to recover, you're just going to have to get used to it. I want to be a man, and I want to be a patriarch, and I want to be a leader. And so I studied that for a long time, and I came up with this really bizarre idea. A leader means you do things first. What? What a concept. Leader does things first. And I'm all, that's like rocket science. Who knew that leaders... So I was really embarrassed that took me like a half a decade to figure that out. Then I had the advantage that you guys don't have, which is I get to listen to dozens of women talking as opposed to one wife talking. So the parallels of this torment pattern, I'm all, oh my gosh, he does this to all of you. And then the simplicity of the solution became astoundingly ridiculous.
If you're finding this video helpful or want to help us reach others in need, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because it really supports our channel. Thank you.
Maurice, as a proactive person, as an intelligent person, don't you plan your day anyway? Don't you try to get these things done? And don't you try to think about your schedule and make sure you're in the right place at the right time to get good stuff done? Aren't you already doing the majority of the brain work? I'm all, well, yeah. Well, then why not just share it? Just share it like a lighthouse shares light. How hard is it to go boop, boop? All my wife needs is a screenshot of my calendar and a screenshot of my task list, and it triples her comfort zone. It really helps me to just remind myself, Maurice, be a presider, be a leader, give her information before she asks for it. That's my secret. Give it to her. You know when she's going to ask for it. You know it's going to be at this point, or this point. Why not give it to her before she asks? Because women don't know the masculine process of responding to visual temptation because they don't experience it. Their torment is as mysterious to us as our temptation is to them. Now, I want you to imagine how luxurious it would be if she walked you through her process of successfully handling torment. Let me share with you how it hits me, how I catch it, how I override it, and how I come out on top. Wouldn't that be one of the coolest conversations for her to describe how she succeeds? Now give her the experience of how you succeed in not falling for temptation. What is going on in your man brain that she's completely unfamiliar with that we know she's going to get triggered with? Trigger means Satan's going to say something scary to her. You can already predict what Satan's going to say that's scary to her. When you already know it and you can say it out loud before she even experiences it, that's very comforting. How presiding of you to be aware of what's going to hurt me. And here's my first protocol to help override that in advance. So when I'm walking down the halls and a half-naked adolescent female in the prime of her reproductive phase of existence walks past me, let me tell you what actually happens in my brain. You can't say she doesn't look like that, because then your wife thinks you're ignoring reality. Like, oh, you didn't notice that she was flaunting all of her reproductive organs? So I was trying to teach this one guy, it says, stop saying you're walking into the gym and you find yourself attracted to other women. He's all, but that's what I says, no. You're walking into the gym and you're experiencing an involuntary biochemical reaction in the reproductive part of your system because other human females are displaying their reproductive organs. See, that is so unromantic, but that's the truth. What are you going to do with that involuntary biochemical reaction? If I do have a biochemical reaction to a living human female, then it's inconvenient because it's not my wife. I don't plan to have a sexual encounter and participate in the animalistic process of reproduction anyway. So it's not even in my head. So go full clinical on it. She doesn't know how the reproductive system of a man works. She doesn't know what's stimulating and what's not stimulating. How are they supposed to know what's stimulating to a man's brain? And what do you do with it? Okay, we're not dogs. We don't see a fire hydrant and go pee on it. We don't see a woman in yoga pants and go over and say, can I participate in reproductive process with you in the grocery store? We don't do that. We do have a frontal lobe. So if we don't tell them what we are doing in our brains, then they're just going to feel a satanic explanation. This is what I actually do in my brain. They won't believe you the first 10 times because they've been told by those other people what we really do. Oh, I know what you really do. You have no ability to control your own brain. You are an animal completely. You don't do anything with your brain. Okay, what are you talking about? I don't do anything with my brain. I work. I assume that you work on your torment. I assume you have a process that you're developing. I don't assume you don't. I assume you do, and I would love to hear about it someday. In the meantime, I will share with you why I don't get into crazy land in my head. Why do you think I got into the position I'm in now? I studied my own brain process. I didn't realize it applied to every other man I've met. Once I figured out, boiled it down to a science, there's no shame in it anymore. It's just science. What is there to be embarrassed about? I have an involuntary biochemical reaction to a woman in the prime of her reproductive phase of life. Who saw that coming? Wow, what a surprise. So what, I just fall downhill because I can't control myself? I have no intention of participating in the reproductive process with that woman, so it's irrelevant. Move on to something that is relevant. So I invite you to, anytime you can predict a trigger, use that genius brain of yours and be 5 minutes ahead of it. Even if your best system doesn't work at first, the fact that you can predict it is comforting to women.